Hello, I'm Don Mooers, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. The Toy Drive, Angels for Children, is a program of Montgomery Housing Partnership, one of our most respected organizations in the county, that collects toys for children in its Wheaton housing programs. Rob Goldman, the president of Montgomery Housing Partnership, will tell us about the state of affordable housing in Montgomery County and how we can all help with this program and the many others that MHP runs. A Death with Dignity study is being discussed by members of the Montgomery County League of Women Voters. They're discussing it this month in order to determine whether to support legislative efforts on the subject that are currently pending in Annapolis. Elaine Apter, the co-president of the state league, will explain how the organization comes to consensus on tough subjects like this, none tougher than death. The Beacon, a monthly newspaper here in the county and throughout the D.C. metropolitan area, keeps us abreast of the latest research and ideas that people need to enhance their lives. Stuart Rosenthal, editor and publisher of The Beacon, is here to tell us about the stories in this month's edition and hopefully so much more. The Board of Education provides two budgets each year, the capital budget and the operating budget. Our guest, Jane DeWinter, who is a budgeteer herself and comments regularly for this program, will explain these budgets in tones and words that will not make us sleep and what we should expect in the budgets this year. How are you doing, Rob? Welcome back.
Doing great. Appreciate being here.
17 years in the helm. As a member of the board at that time, voting my fellow Dookie.
You made a wise decision.
Wise decision. I didn't think you'd last a week. 17 years later, here we go. This is fantastic.
Well, it's been great to be at Montgomery Housing Partnership. We're a nonprofit that was started in 1989, so well before myself. And we've come a long way, and we see ourselves not just developing affordable housing, but also realizing that we have all these residents and integrating the housing with programs for the residents, as well as revitalization of neighborhoods around where affordable housing is located.
Because it's about, I remember your interviews. I remember meeting the first time and then having watched over these years is, Rob, I think the word empowerment is something that's associated with you, as well as incredibly competent in being a national leader in affordable housing. Your statistics and your figuring things out and finding deals and little smidgen of private money here and some federal money there, and all of a sudden we have a housing program is thanks to your kind of genius, Rob.
Well, thank you. I'd love to take all the credit, but I have a wonderful staff, and it's a challenge. We talk to market rate developers, and they say, some who are on our board, and they say we have it easy. We go to the equity market, we go to the debt market, two sources of funding, we get our deals done.
Right.
At MHP and doing affordable housing, we're going to 8 to 12 sources of funding, trying to put it all together. Everyone has a different set of rules, different set of, how it all gets, and trying to make it all work and get it all to come together is a real challenge, but it's the exciting thing about MHP.
I hear you have something very interesting happening around the holiday times. What is it
you do?
Yeah,
the great thing is, and it's, it's more than just the housing. It's about the kids and the people that live there. We have extensive after-school programs and preschool programs, and realizing that the kids are the future and so important, and the holiday times is tough. So interestingly, 20 years ago, before I even started MHP, there was a fire in a house in Wheaton, not an MHP property, and there was such an outpouring of support for this family, and the family had to be moved out of the house. They were staying at the local rescue squad, and people learned about this and started bringing toys and all these presents to the rescue, well more than they could even store at the rescue squad. And the family took, some of those toys, but it was far more than they could ever want or need. So they said, please donate it to needy kids in the neighborhood. And so the rescue squad on Christmas Eve brought the trucks down, started passing out toys to the kids at our Amherst property. And that tradition has carried forth year after year for 20 years now. And we've actually grown. We started with one property of about 123 homes, units. Now we have a total of 250.
In Wheaton, just in Wheaton.
Just in Wheaton,
right.
Next door to each other. And when those trucks come down, the kids are just so excited. They all peering out the window with all smiles. Santa's coming, Santa's coming. It's a great thing.
How can you donate the toys? Through the rescue squad?
Yeah, so it's become a huge community effort. So it's the Rescue Squad, the Chamber of Commerce, MHP coming together to do this. So a lot of the businesses in Wheaton have put out boxes. You can donate it either at MHP. You could go to one of the businesses, donate there. We want them unwrapped because we got to sort them by age.
Right.
And then so then we have a whole big effort of sorting, wrapping, and distributing. So we need volunteers.
This is fantastic. Now let me turn it. I mean, this is a great feel-good story and great efforts here. And I know you're one of the leaders with the AmeriCorps members coming and doing
Absolutely.
empowerment through that, and so many other innovations. But the state of affordable housing in this county is one that we grapple with. It's never going to be resolved fully. Where are we? We've only got a little over a minute left in this, and it's so unfair because we could be talking all day on this. But give us your take on where we are and what we need to do.
Yeah, we have real challenges. We have these older garden-style apartments, bit by bit, are being bought up and made into luxury housing. You've got the whole issues of the Purple Line coming and what happens to the affordable apartments, market-rate affordable apartments there. We need an investment in affordable housing. In the District of Columbia, $100 million a year put towards the production and preservation of affordable housing. In Montgomery County, that number is closer to 25 to 30 million. We need to make an investment in this to make it a difference.
And it just seems like
30 seconds
some of the efforts from the county are just all about, the moderately priced units to be spread out, that there's really a real bias against a whole building of low rent.
I mean, the MPD program has been great, and we also supplement that with preserving these buildings that need to be preserved. Even with our properties, we make a mixed income so that there's a mix and a spreading out of incomes throughout the county.
A lot more to do, huh?
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
going to come back and help us understand.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, Rob, thank you very much. And another 17 years.
Okay.
We'll come out here in our rocking chairs.
Okay.
Wheelchairs. Elaine Apter,
Hi there.
welcome.
Thank you.
We're used to talking about subjects such as education or immigration, economic development, other things that the league gets engaged with the national and state levels. Here we're talking about one that lots of people don't want to ever talk about.
Right.
But it's so important.
It's a pretty heavy topic.
End of life decisions and who should control them.
Right, and the state league at the last convention decided to look at this and study it. And like other things, times are changing. And it used to be called suicide, basically, and that's what it was.
Assisted suicide, Kevorkian,
yeah,
all of that,
assisted
right.
suicide, just get somebody
Right.
out of the pain that didn't want to deal with it anymore. But this death with dignity is what the term seems to be now.
Can you, Elaine, from a great way that the league does, just real briefly, maybe lay out what the issues are that you're looking at?
Okay, basically what it is death with dignity. They're talking about somebody that on their own terms that is mentally competent and is told that they have less than 6 months to live, basically decides that they can have a prescription and they have to self-ingest it and take it at their own will. And as you watch legislation coming through, and it is coming through in many states,
Right.
It's been up in Maryland now for 3 years. It hasn't gone through, and that's what we're watching.
Are there other jurisdictions, whether locally or elsewhere, that have passed that?
But Oregon and Washington are the two main ones, and it's been up in other states. But there are a lot of, what should we say, safeguards that are being put into it. At least 2 doctors have to, certify. The person has to been given the alternatives like hospice and say they they can stop their medication or stop eating and drinking. So there are other alternatives. They can't be coerced. There has to be witnesses. It can't be a relative or a doctor.
So when you're studying this, are you actually going out and surveying older people and seeing what they think about it? Or how do you decide this kind of thing?
Basically, what it has not been that as much as looking at what organizations are doing and
So why not ask the actual people?
and that we could do. We haven't done that exactly, but that is a good point. And you're going to get both sides, because this is a changing thing. And you know, the other side is even some religious. There's no question. There's a religious pullback to this. What's interesting is the medical associations, the doctors, and some of those, they're changing. They were in opposition, and you can understand that because their ideas just keep that life going. That was what the
Actually, what I hear
Democratic
more, and I've seen it in my own family, is doctors are actually encouraging older adults to just give up. Why do you want to do more of this surgery? Why do you want to do more pain? Just let it go.
And what it's changing to is opposition to neutral. And yes, there are some doctors, and there's no question, you know, if you're in pain, you know, and you know you're going to die, bring your family around, you know, your timing is such. And but the key is the person has to be mentally competent.
Well, and there's also, I mean, really, what the sort of the caveats that you're talking about. That's also, you know, somewhat restrictive. Like, you have to be able to swallow pills yourself.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people can't do that at a certain point because they might have a kind of cancer that they can't, you know, ingest anything.
Very true.
Or
it can't be
whatever,
for everything.
so.
And the other thing is that it has to be 100% voluntary, and that's not only the patient, the physician, and the pharmacist.
About a minute
None
left.
of them can be coerced into doing this, and that's part of a lot of the laws too.
You know, going at back at Stuart's question though, one of the comments. You know, one of the truisms about the cost, the dollar, the healthcare dollar, is that 70% or 80% of the healthcare dollar over a lifetime is spent in the final year or 2 years of life. You know, issues in terms of health insurance providers wanting to encourage this, or I mean, I think it's not everyone comes into this with clean hands.
Right.
About 20 seconds left.
And that's the opposition, is the idea that insurance companies could push this because a pill is a lot cheaper than hospice and long-term care. On the other hand, if it is an expensive thing, the family, you know, you could be saving the family money. So there are really, you know, pros and cons in this, and it's an interesting topic.
It is an interesting
We
topic.
will
We'll
look
have
forward to what the league is
come and
comes up
resolve it
with.
for us, Elaine. Let us know
Yes.
the path. Thank you very much. We have to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages.
Mom, can we get some ice cream? Please, Mom, please.
No, we're having dinner soon.
Please.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love.
getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
And we're back. Stuart, welcome back.
Thank you, Don.
You know, one of the things I had a chance just to glance quickly at the December issue of the Beacon.
Well, you should take more time.
Well, no, I will. I will. We've been busy, but there's a ton of great stories this month.
Yes.
So welcome and
Okay, well, our
tell us
cover story
what's going
is, it came to us actually just recently. There's a new American Muslim Senior Society that has been formed in the county, and it's hopefully going to go national. And the idea is to help older Muslims who have a number of reasons why they might not be either aware of or able to take advantage of the services available to them.
Sure.
There's the language issue, there's the halal food thing, which keeps them perhaps from some of the lunch programs. And the thing I did not know is that culturally, it's very, very important to older Muslims that only their family take care of them. That if their kids aren't taking care of them, then they don't want to let anybody else know.
Interesting.
Because it's an embarrassment to them and to the kids.
Right.
So this Muslim woman, Mona Negum, who's been very active in the county for a lot of things,
for a long
formed
time.
this association, and she's training, I think, 37 ambassadors who are fellow Muslims, mostly older, to go and sort of find these people and befriend them and talk to them and help them understand they really can get help and accept help. And I think it's a very interesting thing to be doing.
All right, next.
All right, health story. Very interesting new study that suggests that it's been difficult to diagnose Alzheimer's. Really, the only way to do it now is on autopsy. But doctors...
Which is, I'm going to go ahead and say, that's too late.
It is a little too late, yes. So what they can do spinal taps, which is painful and a little bit difficult and expensive. They can do brain scans, which, also expensive and all. Well, now they seem to find that a simple view into the retina, a quick scan of the retina, can show the earliest possible signs of Alzheimer's. It even shows people who have it in their families show this, the thinning of the retina and the dilution of the capillaries at the back of the retina where the optic nerve goes to the brain. And they think maybe this is showing the earliest signs of what's happening in the brain to brain cells.
So they're recommending people do
it's
this
not,
at
It's
a
not
certain
available
age?
yet. It's just been a couple studies, but they seem to be showing this as promise. And so the hope is that this will catch on and they'll be able to be doing
Somebody just had a retinal tear. I'm hoping that doesn't show me on that fast train to Alzheimer's.
I don't think there's a connection in that direction.
I hope
the
not.
other way around.
Yeah, I don't want to read that
Are
story.
they working on going up to? I mean, I know if we go to have your eyes checked, they do the glaucoma test, which is just automatic. They do that, whatever. So
That's
is
a
it the
very
same
good question.
kind of
Should we
thing?
make it something that everybody gets when they go to the eye doctor? Does everybody want to know?
Let's go.
The truth is, as I talked before in this program, we don't have much we can do about it when you know you're in early Alzheimer's or going to
But
get it.
you can prepare.
You can prepare financially, you
Right.
can talk to yours psychologically, but there's right now no cure. But the hope is that the earlier we identify people who are heading that way, the sooner we can start testing things on them and seeing what might work and help them live longer and not have it.
Take us to Cambodia.
Yes, I'd like to go there myself. We have a travel story about Cambodia, a very interesting place. Low cost, relatively speaking. I mean, the height of luxury is $100 a night in the hotels, and the food is relatively cheap as well. And there's just an incredible number of Hindu and Buddhist sites. It's a very ancient religious culture, and there is this huge Angkor Wat, I don't know if I pronounce it right, Angkor Wat. It's a temple city, which is 400 acres with a moat, and it's humongous. And we have a picture of this building there that's surrounded by a huge giant tree. All the roots have covered over. I mean, it looks very beautiful and very charming and very interesting. Something different to visit.
More health. Where's some positive health stories?
Dog owners. Dog owners.
Yes.
You'll love to hear this. If you're a dog owner, you're likely to have lower risk of heart attack and longer life.
Why?
And if you're not well, what do you think?
Well, we're
pressure
exercising.
You're being more active. You're walking
Company.
around, right? Company, right? You're not lonely in the same kind of way. Also, they believe that the dogs that are bringing in all the dirt and stuff into the house,
Better for kids, right?
Well, they're better for your own immune system. The more you get exposed to these kinds of things early on, the more your body's prepared for them, so it doesn't get a shock later in life when something happens.
Right. Well, that's what they say about kids too. That kids who grow up on farms or
Yes.
whatever,
They don't have allergies.
Are you saying it's one positive thing about having kids?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Or it's let your kids eat the dirt out of it.
It's really okay.
Have they done a similar
I think
study
I get
with cats?
sicker by
do you
having
know?
my
It doesn't
kids
say,
do
but cats don't. You don't have to
But
walk
they
cats in
don't
the
go
same way,
outside,
right?
and they don't go outside.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just saw
most of them.
something today in Apple News saying that you should be walking your cat.
Well, there you go.
Because otherwise it's like keeping a Lamborghini in a garage.
So about 30 seconds left. What do you want to do to leave us here?
Money story. I could just touch
Sure.
on. What was it? Okay, savings interest. We're all sort of worried about what's going on with finances. So there's an article about where to get the most money on your savings.
Okay.
And then we have an article about annuities, what to know about them, whether you should get them or not, and once you have them, what to do, because there are a lot of scams out there where they take people who have annuities and have them pull it out and put it into something else, and they lose huge amounts of money from pulling it out before their surrender period is up. So there's a lot of things to be aware of on that score too.
God, there's just so much. Is this a typical Beacon?
Typical-
There's just so
typical
much
month.
in there.
40 some odd stories. Yep, that's usual.
Well, sort of keeping up on it. I would just think your tour of being a Renaissance man, because you're bringing all this stuff in.
Well,
it's gotta be
I play a
fantastic.
doctor on television. I'm not really an expert in any of these things. I just tell you what the stories say. But
Well, thank you. So the Beacon, available everywhere. Read it
and call us if you can't find a copy near you. We'll tell you where you can look.
And a lot of people read the Beacon are also interested
online
and online as well, interested in education in this county and every jurisdiction, because that's one of the main reasons why people move to this area.
Exactly.
Jobs and great schools. Jane DeWinter, who talks about, discusses education issues for us on a regular basis, is here. Budgeteer Jane,
Yes,
FID,
yes.
PhD economist, talk to us about these budgets
Right.
in a non-PhD way.
Right. Well, operating budget is just the costs of like keeping schools going, teachers, simple maintenance, building maintenance, principals, phone bill, electric bill, buses, that kind of stuff. Capital budget is building more major projects, roofs, things like that.
Okay.
So the operating budget will be issued next week. And that will be the superintendent's recommended operating budget.
Okay.
And then it has a process, goes to the board, goes out for testimony, then it gets sent to the county council. So there's a multi-step process. Capital budget has been out since 2 days before Thanksgiving.
I want my school rebuilt. Darn it.
Right.
Is my school going to get rebuilt? Name your school, whatever it is.
Exactly. Well, there may be a few surprises next year. I want to lead up to that. But the capital budget, like the main budget, only comes out every 2 years.
Okay.
So this is an off year.
Okay.
So there's not much new in it. They're not, usually there aren't new things proposed unless it's,
we
really
have
urgent.
growing numbers of students in the schools, right? So they have to be building on in some way to accommodate.
Right. Well, I mean, but the planning for that and the whatever was last year.
Right.
So
Okay.
they moved forward with what they were planning last year.
does-
There are amendments for 3 new elementary additions that will be considered.
And how does the state funding sort of interweave
Yeah.
with that? And how do they plan, given whatever the variations of the state funding?
Right. Well, Montgomery County has forward funded for years. I mean, basically, their state has capital money for construction projects, but they have to fit, a whole lot of criteria in terms of, the state is not going to pay if you want to have, IM pay design your
Right.
building, things like that, and it's got to be, what the state considers to be educationally appropriate for whatever.
Drab.
And
Yeah.
yeah. But so there's money for additions and for really capacity building and some rehabs and things like that. But the money that we've been getting from the state for decades is way less than our needs. And so Montgomery County has this whole backlog of projects that are into the state for reimbursement. But really, I mean, there still is a push to every year to get more
And
money.
we've got the Kerwin Commission report coming in.
It's going to hurt us even more, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know how that's going to
Yeah.
affect.
Right. And then, but the fact is that you want more state money set aside for the capital budget because that just increases what you're going to be eligible for to be.
No, and the rest of the state comes back, as we've heard over and over again, that you guys are rich, streets are paved with gold. You're taking money away
And
from
that's
other
what
parts
I
of
was
the
going
county.
to ask. Is
Right.
Montgomery
States.
County very unusual in that so much of the county money goes to the school?
I don't know that. I mean, I think that when you're looking at other jurisdictions, other parts of the country where government is municipal, not countywide.
Right.
I mean, a lot of small towns basically,
And they
3/4 of their
issue
budget is their school
Right.
system.
But a lot of them issue bonds too that we don't.
So we've got about a minute and a half left. Let's get through the budgets. What do we need to? What are some takeaways you want us to share with
I
us here?
think takeaways are that there was, in addition to the amendments to this budget from this year, was sort of like a mini report or projection from the superintendent, which was discussing what the future of facility planning is going to be.
What's the future?
Which is basically that they're going to be doing more to not to have what so-called modernizations be in isolation, and whenever they're doing a major thing, they're going to do kind of a more of a looking at, do you have any other needs, timing things together.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I think that it's going to change the system, and some people may feel like they're losing out a little bit, but because it pushes them down.
Sounds reasonable. Oh, I see the other
Yeah.
people.
Right.
Give us a preview. Give us a preview of the operating budget. We're going to be able to pay for all the teachers, or we're going to have larger classrooms. Got about 40 seconds
I
left.
think money is tight. I mean,
Okay.
people may not be thinking it, but I may.
And does the new council and the new county executive help the situation,
Yeah.
make it harder, or where do you see it coming up?
I don't really know whether that's going to make a big difference.
Because he was a teacher. He was a career teacher, right? Mark
Yeah,
was.
right. Yes, but
20 seconds left.
but he also is he has a very critical. I mean, I don't want to say critical like negative, but discerning view on things, looking at stuff. So we'll have to see.
Well, it's going to be interesting, and I think coming up with that question, that will be what we need, and you'll be coming back to comment on a regular basis. Thank you so much, Jane, and thank all of you today for coming in and joining me, and thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. My name is Don Moores, and I'm inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.